Matt, so you sometimes freelance on your own as sort of our like independent movie crash dummy, like when you went to see Boss Baby and reported back on it.
Film
Well,
Ronin.
the Boss Baby thing was basically my friend and I were in New York. It was hot as hell, and we were like, fuck it, let's just go into the theater. And Boss Baby sounded like good irony. But I make it a point to see every Transformers movie in the theater.
Woo! So you saw the new Transformers.
I've seen 3 of the 5 of them alone. Including this one. I take it seriously. Like I'm bearing witness. I am the Victor Klemperer of American cinema, basically. My job is to see what the zeitgeist is. Because in my opinion, and I had this realization shortly after the last one came out, after I watched this insane 2.5-hour, $200 million just eye molestation, I realized that every empire in history has hyper-exploited their peripheral subjects in order to build grotesquely expensive monuments to their own power. And the Egyptians had the pyramids, and the Romans had triumphal arches, and the American Empire has the Transformers movies. Like, they've cost at this point probably $1 billion, you know, and that money is obviously coming from squeezing blood from the stones of the world proletariat so that they can make these just grotesque, mind-destroying spectacles. But of course, the great irony is that now they are less pitched towards American audiences than they are to the godless Chinese communists, which was certainly true of the last one, which had one of my favorite scenes ever. There's a scene in the last Transformers movie where the Transformers are fighting in Hong Kong, and they cut to a Chinese government official from the central government saying, "We must protect the city," and that's it. Like, he's never in the movie before or after. The Viacom, multi-billion-dollar capitalist entity Viacom, spent millions of dollars to put like a solid 30 seconds of unalloyed propaganda for the Chinese Communist Party in a movie. It's amazing. There's none of that in this one, though. There's no Chinese pandering in this one. So, instead, it's just insane retconning of world history.
To be clear, the film is Transformers: The Last Night. This is the new Transformers movie.
Yeah.
What and then I think the things that we all picked up on is this like that it's like Transformers throughout history and mythology.
Yeah.
So you got to fill us in.
Okay, well, all right. Well, one of the things I love about the Transformers movie in the era of the Marvel expanded universe concept, where every movie is just a pitch for the next movie, and they try to maintain a through line of canon and continuity. Every single Transformers movie starts from scratch in terms of what the actual lore is. Like, they don't give a fuck about anything that came before it. Like, it's like, no, you thought that Energon Cube created the Transformers? Wrong. It was this CGI lady from history. Like, they don't care. And I kind of like that, because now every movie is just, okay, did you see the last one? Have you done your homework and all that shit? Now they're just like, fuck it, we're just going to riff on whatever. So in this one, even though in previous iterations of the movie they've talked about how Transformers were created when we killed the dinosaurs, I think. That was in the last one.
I remember they were fighting cavemen in one of them.
Yeah, that was in the last one. And there was one where Transformers landed on the moon in the 60s, and that's why they sent the Apollo missions there, was to get them. That was in the third one. But and there's one where they built the pyramids. That's the second one. And then the first one, they just land in the present day, and they had never been here before. So they just change it every time. And this time, the Transformers hooked up with King Arthur in 500 AD and helped him fight off the Saxons.
Why?
Because he was a symbol of like humans' greatest possibilities. Like, King Arthur's court was what human civilization could be.
Okay.
And the barbarian hordes were like evil and, chaos.
Uh-huh.
And so then they went into hiding after that, but they maintained this, there's this order of like people descended from King Arthur's knights who keep his memory, who like keep up the history of them. It's sort of like the Knights Templar kind of.
Okay.
Or like in the Da Vinci Code, where instead of the blood of Jesus they're protecting the secret of the Transformers. And the Transformers will like hook up with them through history and help them with stuff. And this is all explained by Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, is Anthony Hopkins like the last Knights Templar?
He is the last sort of keeper of the lore. Yes.
Okay, all right.
He's this British lord, and he's got this room full of portraits of all of the people in history who are part of this group, and it includes people like Leonardo, Da Vinci, and Michelangelo, and Columbus, and Harriet Tubman, and Frederick Douglass.
Okay, that's what I needed to ask about, because like I saw the clip that said in like a little news item about how the latest Transformers movies, the Transformers help Harriet Tubman in the Underground Railroad.
Well, they don't show it or anything, which would have been amazing. They just show her. They kind of imply it. They imply that she knew about Transformers, and presumably they helped her.
They also they were involved with the worst railroad. There was a certain Transformer in Central Europe who transformed into a train.
Well, no, they actually show a scene in World War II where Bumblebee transforms from a Jeep to attack a Nazi mansion, sort of like Dirty Dozen.
Okay, my favorite thing about this history retconning, like the idea that the Transformers, who are, incredibly futuristic giant robots who can like change their arms into like cannons or helicopters and shit, were aware of the Underground Railroad and the injustices of slavery, but like did very little to stop.
Well, yeah, and they also fought in World War II, but didn't stop the Holocaust from happening.
Well, they had already gotten a contract with the Nazi government to transform into trains and gas chambers. They were like, "Well, we can't break the contract. Like
that was the Decepticons are transforming into trains."
Yeah,
and
that would have been interesting if they had sort of created this like alternative history where all human conflict was basically a proxy war between Decepticons and Autobots. That would have been interesting, but it's never that clear because
Optimus Prime,
it was written by 15 people all like whacked out on coke in 2 weeks.
Optimus Prime transformed into Fat Man and Little Boy and helped us end the war by demolishing Hiroshima and Nagasaki in a flash.
Yeah. But the last night is actually Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, okay.
of course.
All right,
yeah.
cool.
Spoiler alert.
I also love that Anthony Hopkins is in this movie. It's sort of like he got this.
He's been in some shit.
He's been in some bad movies, but like,
well, yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing, and this is actually I realized this a while. It's with the last Transformers movie. Actually, is that Michael Bay has a few genuine strengths as a director, and one of his most consistent abilities is to get good actors who are just collecting a paycheck to actually like not phone it in. Like if you look at his movies throughout his whole career, you see these actors who have every reason to just show up and punch the clock, but they're actually good. Like Stanley Tucci in the last one is fantastic. Like look at Buscemi in Armageddon versus Buscemi in Con Air, which looks like a Michael Bay movie, but it's not a Michael Bay movie. He's like sleepwalking through Con Air, but he's like a live wire in Armageddon. And that's true of all those movies. And that's true of Hopkins. Like Hopkins is like De Niro at this point. He shows up, he hits his mark, he mumbles his lines, and he's out of there. But he's like all zesty and fucking froggy in this movie. He's like saying, "Yo, bitch." It's amazing.
I'd love to piss on that hoe. That bitch got fucked. So I
that is not at all far from the dialogue that they have Sir Anthony Hopkins saying in this movie.
I was talking with Nick about this last week about Michael Bay and like the new Transformers movies, and he had the idea that like for the next one, like they spend this obscene amount of money for these huge action sequences. He had the I think brilliant idea that like they should just pay the city of Detroit like the equivalent of the budget to have him actually demolish downtown Detroit and have like a real Autobot like just stomp through the historic Ford Theater or something. I mean, it would look amazing.
That would be, and Trump would absolutely eminent domain Detroit to do that. No question.
Or like the Chinese.
Yeah, I mean, like they have acres and acres of condemned buildings in Detroit that just sit there because they don't have the money to pull them down, literally. So if you just dropped a 6-ton robot on them instead,
yes,
for free, who would say no to that?
Either that, or just bribe the Chinese government so that he can have like a Constructobot turn into a giant wrecking ball and just put a hole in the Great Wall of China.
It sounds like if you showed this movie to Trump, he would believe that Transformers have existed historically.
Oh, yeah, he would.
Like, no question.
Folks, I'm getting Jared on this. Okay, we're going to have him investigate where these Transformers are coming from.
I am the only one Optimus Prime will talk to. Believe me, he respects me. I've talked to him as both a truck and a robot.
Now that we have Trump as president, I'm looking forward to the next Transformers movie because everyone except this one, which was made during the transitional period, really, they all have, like, the president has a lot to do. And they say him by name. Like, they actually have George Bush in the first one. Like, he's a character in the first Transformers movie. And then they have, like, Obama on TV doing a speech in the subsequent ones that were came out during the Obama years.
Obama has a special limo transformer.
Trump into the Transformers mythos is something I'm really looking forward to in the future.